Heartwarming encounter. A simple nurse's life-changing delay reveals an unexpected love with a military medic. The rain hammered down like the beating of 1,000 anxious hearts, echoing through the dimly lit corridors of the small Midwestern hospital. Sarah, a dedicated nurse, felt the familiar weight of the world on her shoulders as she scanned the room filled with forgotten veterans, souls shaded by the storm clouds of despair and economic hardship. The old hospital walls had seen more than their share of suffering, and each patient whispered silent stories of lives lived and lost. Tonight, those stories pierced deeper as her mind wandered to her 17-year-old son, Tommy, waiting at home, likely staring listlessly at the leftovers she'd hoped to share with him. The clock ticked mercilessly toward midnight, reminding her that once again, she'd be home late. She could feel the heaviness of her own exhaustion settle in, the kind that seeped into her bones. Just as she finished checking on Mr. Anderson, a veteran with memories that haunted him more than any physical ailment, a scream echoed from the ER. A crash cart was needed for a new patient. She sprung into action, her heart pounding in rhythm with the sirens that blared just outside. Hours later, as she finally stepped out through the puddles of rain, her heart sank a little. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and she felt that familiar, suffocating embrace of small-town judgment. But then, just as she turned the corner towards the diner for her first meal in what felt like ages, she bumped right into him, Mark, a figure etched in her memory from a few sporadic encounters around town. He had the kind of rough exterior that spoke of hard-fought battles, both on and off the battlefield. "Wow, I didn't expect to run into you here," he said with a lopsided smile that sent an unexpected warmth through her breast. "I thought I'd be alone tonight." "Me too," she replied, surprised at how easily their words flowed, like the rain trickling outside. They found a booth, the aroma of fresh coffee wrapping around them like a welcoming hug. Each sip sparked conversations about their journeys, their livelihoods intertwined like threads in a frayed tapestry. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." They laughed at shared blonde jokes, connected over tales of single parenting, and began unfurling their fears with a delicate trembling, like butterflies emerging from cocoons. But as the night wore on, that fear lurked like dark clouds, threatening to set stormy ties between them. Sarah knew the whispers that circulated about people like her, about people like him, the lowly nurse, the struggling vet. But with every shared glance, those judgments felt a little less heavy. Their budding romance almost brightened the dreary sky until reality crashed in. Days later, whispers turned to pointed stares in the grocery line as their relationship drew heavy scrutiny from the very community they fought so hard to belong to. Just as they shared laughter over greasy fries, the storm outside matched the brewing chaos within, serving as a reminder that love, especially in a world quick to judge, came with its own stormy skies. As Sarah returned to the hospital, a crisis emerged. It would not only test her strength as a nurse but also reveal the underlying tenacity within her and Mark, forcing them to confront their fears, prejudices, and each other. In that pivotal moment, would they choose love in the face of relentless rain, or would the storm of societal judgment hold them captive? As Sarah stepped back into the hospital, the flurry of activity hit her like a gust of cold wind. The ER was alive with urgency. A young soldier came in, his face pale, fear etched across his brow as he was wheeled past her. The gurney sped down the corridor, and she recognized the urgency. Trauma cases always whispered of grief and hope intertwined, but they also demanded focus. "Sarah, I need you on the floor," called out Dr. Patel, and without hesitation she went to his side. The hum of machines mixed with the low murmurs of concerned voices. She focused her mind, steadying her breath, trying to silence the storm that brewed within her. In those frantic moments, thoughts of Mark flitted in and out of her mind. He was a comforting presence among the chaos, his smile a beacon. But in the unpredictable tides of the evening, the whispers and stares felt heavy again. The patients, their fear and sorrow, needed her full attention. She pushed aside the gnawing uncertainty about her burgeoning relationship as she prepped for the incoming chaos. Hours slipped by under the glare of fluorescent lights, and the rhythm of beeping machines became a symphony that both energized and drained her. Time melted, but the sound of Mark's laughter echoed sweetly. When she took a moment to breathe, she thought of him, his presence grounding her amidst the turbulence. "Have you seen the new PT manual on military rehab methods?" Mark had asked during one of their late-night talks over cold cups of coffee. He understood the depth of mental and physical healing better than anyone, and Sarah had found solace in their shared experiences. But suddenly a loud crash jolted her focus. A code blew. Before she could register her next move, she felt the rush of adrenaline push her forward. "Clear!" a nearby doctor shouted, as the medical team surrounded the soldier lying on the floor. The urgency ignited a fire in her chest, and she sprang into action. As the chaos reached a fever pitch, time seemed to stretch indefinitely. Seconds felt like lifetimes as they worked on stabilizing the young man. Everyone played their part, hands working as one fine-tuned machine. Yet, amid the madness, Sarah felt a solitary ache at the back of her throat. This wasn't just about saving a life. It was a reminder of Mark's past, the sacrifices that weighed on him even if he didn't speak them. Once they finally stabilized the soldier, she needed a moment. She stepped back exhausted, wiping the sweat from her brow. It was then she heard familiar footsteps approaching. "Sarah." Mark's voice broke through her whirlwind thoughts, and she turned, surprised to see him standing there in scrubs, speckled with a hint of paint and a layer of worry in his eyes. "Mark, what are you doing here?" she managed to ask, mixing relief with confusion. "I heard about the situation and I wanted to be here for you." His expression was a mix of concern and warmth, yet behind it lingered something deeper, the weight of their world pressing down on them both. Just as she was about to respond, the emergency alarm rang out again, this time more insistent than before. Mark's gaze turned serious and he stepped closer, as if silently promising to stand by her side, no matter the storm. But would standing together be enough? The air thickened around them with uncertainties about their relationship, and the palpable judgment from the world outside hung heavily over their heads as their eyes locked. A mixture of resolve and fear ignited in her heart. She would face whatever came next. The love they were finding was worth the fight. But as they prepared to dive back into the chaos, a voice boomed over the intercom that sent a chill down her spine. "We have an incoming patient from the crash earlier. Everyone prepare." A new wave of dread washed over her. What would this new addition bring? Was their union strong enough to weather the impending storm? The rain outside poured relentlessly, but Sarah could feel something stirring within her, a flicker of resolve igniting hope for what lay ahead. Would love be the light, guiding them through the turbulent night? The emergency door swung open again, and the sounds of chaos surged like a tidal wave through the waiting room. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the gurney being wheeled in, echoing the shrill sounds of alarm and urgency. The room surged with the frantic energy of nurses and doctors snapping to attention, forming a barrier against the insurmountable tide of grief and uncertainty. She caught a glimpse of the patient, a woman perhaps in her 30s, bloodied and unconscious. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. The reality of the situation settled heavily like weight on her chest. In that moment it wasn't just a patient. It was someone's daughter, maybe a sister. The reverberations of fear and hope pulsed in her veins, and she pushed forward, marveling at how each minute detail of life was literal and vital in moments like this. "Sarah, I need you on for setup." Dr. Patel's voice broke through the haze of her thoughts, urging her like a lifeline. On it. She didn't have a choice. The surge of adrenaline kicked in, and she was back in her element. With steady hands she worked swiftly, inserting the 4-line as she heard the low murmuring around her. Voices blended together, a choir of fear and desperation that stilled only when Dr. Patel called for silence. They fought against the shadows, the team working in unison, the machine beeping its rhythm like a war drum. Mark was right there, close by, his presence as much of a comfort as it was a guiding force. When their eyes met, an unspoken understanding flickered. This was their purpose. To be here now, to give everything in the pursuit of saving those who couldn't fight for themselves. "Get ready for CPR," Dr. Patel shouted as panic sparked in the air. The nurses nodded, and Sarah positioned herself beside Mark. their movements synchronized as if they were two pieces of a well-rehearsed dance. The rhythmic compression of the chest began, each push a desperate plea for life. Sarah's focus narrowed, her breath aligning with the urgency of their work. "Come on, you can do this," she whispered softly, as though the woman could hear her. They worked tirelessly, hearts pounding, adrenaline coursing through until finally, they caught a spark, a shallow breath, a flicker of life in the eyes that had been closed tight. Cheers erupted in the room. Relief rode high on the hum of the energy, but it was tinged with the weight of reality. Sarah looked at Mark, a shared grin breaking the tension, and for a breathless moment, they were separate from the chaos, a world of possibilities only slightly apart from despair. "Yeah, we did it," she said softly, pride swelling in her chest. Yet as quickly as the moment rose, a nurse approached the team, urgency etched deep in her features. "Get ready. Another case is incoming now," she warned, and the energy shifted again as they positioned themselves for the next wave of patients. Sarah felt Mark's hand brush against hers. Something electric shot through her at that split-second contact, and it gave her strength. She needed him now more than ever. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice a mere threat in the urgency swirling around them. "Always," he replied, his gaze unwavering, and together they plunged once more into the storm, hearts aligned as they faced each crisis with unwavering courage. But just as they prepared for the incoming patient, something flickered at the corner of Sarah's mind, doubt that gnawed at her heart. Could she really handle the constant cycle of trauma? Or the unpredictability of their budding connection? Just beyond the emergency doors, an unknown fate awaited them. Would their bond hold strong against whatever challenges lay ahead? Or would the strains of their night push them apart? The storm continued to brew, dark and heavy, and Sarah braced herself as they were called back to action, knowing that each moment brought them closer to the truth both about their patients and each other. The emergency door swayed open again, and another gurney rolled in, wheeling with it a sense of dread that tightened the air. Sarah felt her heart drop as she recognized the young girl lying on the gurney. It was Lily, a girl she had once seen in the pediatric ward, laughing and coloring as vibrant drawings filled her hospital room. The sight of her now, pale and bruised, shot pain straight through Sarah's core. She inhaled deeply, suppressing the wave of emotions threatening to crash over her. "Stay focused, Sarah," she murmured under her breath, but doubt hung heavy like fog. "Sarah, for line," Dr. Patel called out, his voice fracturing through her turmoil. She nodded, steeling herself as the team converged on the scene. This was not the time for hesitation, even if her heart was screaming in denial. As she prepared the setup with trembling fingers, her mind raced. How had this happened? Just yesterday she had seen them in the cafeteria, Lily's laughter ringing through the halls. But there was no dwelling on that now. "Let us go, people. We need to get her stable." Dr. Patel's command pulled her back into action, and together they fought against the tide of fear. Sarah glanced at Mark, who was busy checking the monitors. His face spoke volumes. He sensed the weight of the situation and was doing everything he could to shift the burden off of her shoulders. "We got this," Mark said, meeting her eyes. His presence anchored her and provided an invisible shield against the storm inside. With each movement they made, each heartbeat echoed around the room, a collective rhythm of hope and desperation. They moved with precision, pushing through the chest compressions, very aware of the stakes. Each pump was a silent prayer. "Stay with us," Lily, Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the beeping machines and frantic voices around her. Minutes felt like hours, and just when fatigue started to drift into her limbs, a small miracle happened. She saw it, the flutter of Lily's eyelids, a soft gasp that sent ripples of disbelief through the room. Cheers erupted, but Sarah hardly registered them. All she felt was a rush, a mix of overwhelming relief and elation. But the moment was fleeting. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the next gurney being wheeled in, its occupant concealed by several blankets. Anxiety latched onto her again as they tackled Lily's recovery, barely catching their breath before diving into the next wave of chaos. Staying close to Mark became instinctual. Their hands brushed again as they maneuvered around the cluttered space. Sarah felt that electric connection intensifying. "You okay?" Mark asked softly, concern etched into his features. "Yeah, just it's Lily," Sarah replied, blinking back tears. "I know," he breathed, and for a moment everything around them fell away. It was just the two of them. bound by shared determination and their fight for those who couldn't advocate for themselves. Finally, as Lily stabilized, Sarah dared to breathe. But silence, that sweet silence of relief, was abruptly broken as the emergency doors swung open once more. A hush fell over the team. The expression on the paramedic's face told them this was serious. Multiple victims from a pileup. "We need every available hand," he announced, urgency rising in the room. Panic mingled with adrenaline. What awaited them? Would they be able to rescue everyone that night? Sarah's heart raced with anxiety, mixed with an instinctive desire to protect Mark. They had already faced so much tonight, but it was far from over. Mark gripped her shoulder, his eyes steady. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," he declared. But doubt flickered in the back of her mind. Could she really hold it together through all this? Would her connection with Mark survive the storm ahead? As she drew a deep breath, ready to confront whatever challenges loomed, the doors parted once more, and a new wave of uncertainty flooded in. The chaos erupted as the doors flew open, revealing a team of paramedics wheeling in several gurneys, faces masked in grim determination. Each figure told a story without words, their posture echoing the weight of tragedy. Bloodied bandages and terrified eyes made Sarah's stomach churn. No time for doubts now, her training kicked in like a reflex. "Let us get them lined up," Dr. Patel shouted. The team quickly gathered around, moving with urgency to triage the new patients. Sarah could feel the electric hum of adrenaline running through her veins as she followed their commands. She steeled herself, focusing on the task ahead and the people they needed to save. "Mark, you're with me," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. He nodded, quickly squaring his shoulders, and together they approached the first gurney. The young man lying there was unconscious but breathing, his face marred by deep cuts and bruises. Sarah felt her heart ache. She glanced at Mark, and in that split second of eye contact, time stopped. They were only two souls amidst the storm, but it felt like they were tethered together, ready to face anything the night threw their way. "Let us start in 4, Mark suggested, his hands moving deftly. Sarah hurried to get supplies, their hands almost automatically finding each other's touch on the equipment. Every brush of skin sent a spark of reassurance coursing through her. In the midst of the tumult, he was her anchor. They worked seamlessly, a well-oiled machine. But with every injured patient they attended to, the weight of the world pressed heavier on Sarah's chest. Each story they saved felt like another piece of their own fractured lives, coming together only to be threatened again by unforeseen calamity. A scream pierced through the air, followed by the sound of another gurney crashing into the wall. Sarah's head snapped up as she caught sight of a girl, no older than 15, being wheeled in, her leg twisted at an unnatural angle. The girl's South mother followed close behind, her wails of despair contrasting starkly with the sterile harshness of the emergency room. "Sarah," Dr. Patel's voice sliced through her thoughts. "I need you on this one. We're losing her." The urgency in his voice jerked her back to reality. She rushed to the girl, trying to focus on the clinical details, drowning out the mother's cries. Mark was right beside her, working to stabilize the frantic breathing. As she fought with adrenaline pumping furiously, a thought spiraled through her mind she couldn't fail. "Not now. Stay with me, sweetheart," she murmured to the girl, locking eyes for a moment. What would it feel like to be rescued? The bond formed in that instant felt too profound, too vital. This girl was someone's entire world. Just like Lily, just like so many others, she deserved to come back. Every moment stretched like a lifetime. They had to move faster to keep hope alive, 1 second at a time. Sarah's hands were steady, her mind racing through procedures she had memorized, each one a lifeline. But as Mark's eyes met hers again, a fear flickered beneath the surface. What if they couldn't save her? With newfound resolve, Sarah leaped into action as if propelled by an unseen force. "Mark, I need that suction," she shouted, her voice fierce in the chaos. They worked through sheer will, a rhythm swelling between them amidst the surrounding clamor. When the girl finally let out a gasp, life returning, Sarah let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. But just as she began to feel a sense of relief, the alarms in the room began to blare, a sharp reminder that their night was far from over. Panic washed over the team yet again. A voice crackled through the speaker system, announcing another wave of critical cases arriving. As Sarah and Mark turned to face the doors, her heart raced. What awaited them next? Would they have what it took to confront yet another storm? She glanced cautiously at Mark, who met her gaze with unwavering strength. Ready? He asked, a reassuring smile breaking through the tension. For whatever comes next, she replied. But her heart quivered with anticipation. Would their connection hold amidst this relentless tide? Or would it shatter under the weight of their challenges? The world seemed to tremble at that thought, and the doors swung wide once more. The doors swung open with a cacophony of clattering wheels and frantic voices. A new wave of patients streamed in, each one requiring urgent attention. Sarah felt her heart leap at the sight of a woman carrying a young child, the boy's small body limp in her arms. She dashed forward, her instincts locking into place like pieces of a puzzle. Here. Right this way, she called, her voice slicing through the chaos. The mother's face was drenched in tears, her breaths coming in panicked bursts. The boy had bruises blooming on his skin, and Sarah's heart sank. She exchanged a quick glance with Mark, who rushed over with a gurney. Get him on the table, Sarah instructed, her voice firm yet gentle. Time felt like an elastic band stretched too thin. She could almost hear the ticking clock, each tick a reminder of urgency. They moved swiftly, focusing only on the child, as if the world around them faded into a blurred backdrop of noise and chaos. Sarah placed her hands on the small chest, feeling the shallow rise and fall so fragile. It was a ticking clock where every second counted. Hang in there, buddy, she whispered, the reassurance more for herself than him. She caught Mark's eye again, their unspoken communication lingering just for a moment. They both nodded, a silent agreement to fight together, to save this little boy. As they worked, a voice echoed through the emergency room. Dr. Patel. Over here. She turned her head toward the sound, catching sight of Dr. Patel entangled in a swarm of nurses and doctors. They were trying to stabilize yet another influx of patients, barely keeping the team afloat amid the breaking wave. Sarah, he needs a cast and quick. Mark shouted over the commotion, his hands deftly securing 4 lines. Can you prep the materials? On it, she replied, her heart racing. She sprinted to the supply room, rummaging through shelves to find what she needed. Each piece she gathered was not just equipment. It represented hope for the child, for his mother, for all the lives intertwined in that moment. When she returned, sweat trickled down her temples, but she pushed through. Handing Mark the supplies, she caught a glimpse of the mother, standing there helpless, hands clasped tightly a few feet away, praying silently. In the midst of chaos, that image hit Sarah hard. Your son is strong, she said slowly to the mother, who looked up with tears of fear mixing with faint hope. We're doing everything we can. Despite the turmoil surrounding them, Sarah felt a connection blooming in that fraught moment, a shared understanding of love's power even amid adversity. Thank you, the mother whispered, her voice quaking with emotion. It struck Sarah to the core, a reminder of why she was there. Why each painstaking moment mattered, not just for the boy, but for the family yearning to hold him safe again. Together she and Mark worked as a unit, their movements synchronized, that invisible thread stitching them close. Suddenly a harsh alarm blared, piercing through their focus. Sarah looked at the monitor, eyes widening as the numbers danced and flickered in warning. He's crashing, she shouted, scrambling back to the boy's side as Mark applied pressure to the wound. He locked eyes with her again, the fear unspoken but clear. We're not losing him. The weight of their shared resolve ignited something fierce between them. They fought harder, their rhythm becoming intense and frantic as they poured everything they had into insistent movements, each second stretching into eternity with sheer determination. Sarah could feel something shift. The boy's pulse steadied, the beeping becoming less frantic. Relief washed over her temporarily, but the gravity of their ordeal loomed. Let us keep pushing, Mark urged, fire in his voice. We can do this. They exchanged glances again, and Sarah felt a deeper connection than she'd ever imagined. Through the anguish and adrenaline of the moment, she realized that it was not just about saving lives. It was about forging bonds, witnessing small miracles, enduring hardships together. But before she could let her hope take root, another figure appeared at the door, silhouetted against the harsh fluorescent lights. A new arrival. Sarah's breath hitched. This one, the urgency in the nurse's voice suggested, would be just as critical. Come on, Mark called, diving back into action. Sarah followed, her heart racing anew at the thought of where the night would take them next. Would their courage hold? Would they be able to face the next wave when it crashed over them? The storm was far from over, and both their hopes and fears surged within her chest like the pounding of a drum. As the doors banged shut behind them, she prepared to face yet another challenge, not quite knowing what awaited, but knowing they had to be ready. Would they truly be enough when it mattered the most? The air buzzed with frantic energy as Sarah and Mark moved toward the new arrival. The nurse's face a mask of urgency. The moment fell heavy with unspoken questions. Who would they face next? What stories lurked behind the door they were about to open? As they entered, the scene revealed a middle-aged man, his face dusty and streaked with worry, cradling his teenage daughter. She lay limp in his arms, her skin a pale contrast against his rugged exterior. Sarah's stomach tightened at the sight of the girl's closed eyes, an eerie stillness reminiscent of the little boy they had just fought to save. A car accident, the nurse hurriedly explained as she made room for them near the gurney. We're losing her vitals fast. Please. She needs immediate attention. Every instinct within Sarah flared. Heart racing, she stepped into the storm once more. Mark, get the monitors set up. I need you to check her breathing, she commanded, her mind clicking into overdrive. She took a deep breath and focused on the father, who was clearly terrified. Sir, we're going to take care of her, she said softly, trying to ground herself as much as him. But she was fine just a minute ago, he stammered, confusion clouding his features. We were on our way home. She was laughing. Sarah's heart broke for the father. How easily life could shift from laughter to fear. She needed him to trust her now, to hold on to that fleeting strength. We're here for her, she repeated, hoping her voice was a balm against his despair. As they worked, Sarah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. She could hear the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor, each sound a reminder of what she fought for. Mark and she exchanged quick glances, their synergy already deepening after their earlier struggle. He leaned down to check for any bleeding. Nothing major, but we need to stabilize her, he noted, focused. They fought against time together, hands racing and hearts pounding. Sarah's mind flickered to the mother of the little boy, to the hope and connection they had shared. Keep talking to her, Sarah encouraged the father, noting how he hesitated. Let her hear your voice. With trembling lips, he finally began to speak. Emily, I'm right here. Just hold on, sweetheart. You're so strong. Remember all those times we went fishing? You caught the biggest trout and you were so proud. The words flowed from him like a lifeline. A reminder for them all of who this girl was beyond this moment of crisis. Sarah felt a rush of determination. They continued their work, trying to maintain the calm under pressure. She could sense the father's grip tightening on his daughter's warm hand. Desperation mingled with regret. Why didn't I drive slower? I should have been more careful. Don't, Sarah urged gently but firmly, meeting his gaze. What happened isn't your fault. Right now she needs you to believe in her. That can make all the difference. Just as she finished, the heart monitor let out a piercing beep, sending an electric current of fear through the room. Come on, Emily. The father pleaded, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mark, we have to increase the fluids now. As the weight of the moment settled, Sarah could feel every ounce of energy coalescing around the father's plea, binding them together in their purpose. The air felt thick with determination, but still it all felt tenuous. With care and precision, Sarah's hands worked, feeling the faint pulse beneath her fingers. To her astonishment, she could almost hear whispers of hope chasing away despair. Let us stabilize her. Stay with us, Emily, Mark called, his voice rising above the equipment's noise. Suddenly, Emily's eyelids fluttered, as if responding to her father's unwavering belief. Dad? She whispered, her voice weak but clear. A wave of relief washed over Sarah. The moment felt electric, charged with the possibility of hope rising amid their struggle. But before they could celebrate or rest, a new alarm clattered in the background. A sense of looming dread returned, reminding them that every moment in this place was a fight. Another one? Mark exclaimed, his voice filling the room as they prepared for yet another wave. Stay focused, Sarah said, steadiness in her voice even as her heart raced. What lay ahead? Could they maintain the strength needed to navigate through the night? Would Emily's miracle spark more hope? Or would they be faced with darker challenges yet to come? The sound of the new alarm echoed through the crowded trauma room, slicing through the fragile moment of connection they'd just witnessed. Sarah's heart sank as she turned her attention to the source, the familiar weight of urgency settling back upon her. Mark grabbed the crash cart. She barked, her voice sharper now, filled with the tension that came from repeated battles against time. She could feel sweat beading on her forehead, resting against her brow like a reminder of the hard work that lay ahead. The new patient, a young man in his early 20s, was being wheeled in. His face was bruised and contorted in pain, his arms slumped at his sides as though the very spirit had been knocked from him. A motorcycle accident, another life hanging by a mere thread. Responding unit reports he was found on the pavement, the nurse said breathlessly, as she calculated the boy's injuries. Conscious but agitated. Let us get him stabilized quickly. Is he breathing? Sarah asked, quickly moving to assess. She could feel the atmosphere thickening, the gravity of their situation setting in. Barely. We need to intubate him if he doesn't improve, Mark interjected, keeping his gaze locked on the monitors. He leaned down to talk directly to the young man, his eyes intent. Hey, can you hear me? You're safe. We're going to help you. Mom, the young man gasped, his voice struggling against the pain. Where's my mom? Focus on me, Mark urged, drawing the young man's attention back. Keep looking at me. Just breathe. He was the calm in the storm, a steady anchor in the chaos. Sarah exchanged a knowing glance with Mark. They were both feeling the same thing. The strain of emotional weight pressing down on them, threatening to collapse any moment. Stay with us, Sarah said, kneeling beside the gurney as she studied the flicker of panic in the young man's eyes. Inspiration struck her. She believed in the power of a personal connection. Did you guys have a good day today? Tell me about it. Yeah, I was just writing. He stumbled over his words, the fog of confusion mixing with pain. I was going to meet her. Meet who? Sarah coaxed, feeling the urgency pulse through her. Your friend? Your girlfriend? Francine. She was going to meet me at the diner. Great. Sarah encouraged, hoping to keep him engaged. That's a good place. I bet she's worried about you. While Sarah grasped at threads of his consciousness, Mark swiftly gathered equipment, his hands working mechanically yet with practiced finesse. Teamwork held them steady, a lifeline amid the bewildering demands of their reality. Suddenly, the heart monitor began to whine, the blaring sound sending a ripple of fear through Sarah. Let us keep him stable. Mark on 3 will start before she could finish. The young man's body seemed to seize, a brief moment that felt like a lifetime. His eyes widened with fear, recognition echoing in his gaze. Dad! He shouted, voice cracking. Stay with us. Mark shouted, urgency lacing every word as he applied pressure. Get the doctor. Sarah commanded, her heart racing. She needed to believe they could pull this back, that they could return him to the world waiting outside. With each passing second, Sarah felt the weight of her own struggle cascade down like stones in her chest. Every patient represented not just a person but families, dreams, futures that intertwined. In the midst of the unraveling chaos, she caught a glimpse of the father of Emily, still nearby. His grief now mingled with a flicker of hope as he watched the efforts unfolding. Hang in there, he whispered to the young man, a shared bond forming amongst so many fierce emotions. But as the alarms rang louder, a sudden tune of unease overshadowed the flicker of optimism. What awaited them on the other side of this terrible night? Would they be able to patch the torn fabric of lives they were trying to mend? As the door swung open again, a new doctor entered the room with an urgent expression that commanded attention. Let us figure out what we're dealing with hearts pounding. Sarah and Mark braced themselves for whatever storm was about to erupt next. Would they find the strength together to keep pushing through this relentless night? Or would the weight of it all finally come crashing down? The new doctor wasted no time. A whirlwind of authority and competence. She moved swiftly to the patient's side, her hands flying as she assessed immediately. What is happening? She asked sharply, eyes darting between the monitors and the young man's pale face. Breathing as shallow. Intubation might be necessary, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. The doctor nodded, her focus on the young man, who was still grappling with the shadows of consciousness. We need to stabilize him. Mark, get the intubation supplies. Sarah, prepare for rapid sequence induction. Sarah stepped back to gather her thoughts, sweat dripping from her brow. The thick scent of antiseptic filled the air, mixing with the tension that hung like a storm cloud over the room. She sensed the room's energy each second marked by the rhythmic beeping and the desperate breaths of the young man. Stay with us, buddy. You're not alone, Mark shouted, as he worked to keep the young man focused. Christine, he gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm right here. A new voice broke through the chaos. The door swung open, revealing a young woman in her 20s, wild-eyed and frantic. The blood left her face as she took in the scene, her hands trembling at her sides. Sarah's heart twisted at the sight. This was Christine, the girl the young man had been trying to reach. The connection was immediate, an electric surge that ignited with fear. Get her out of here, the doctor shouted, but Sarah stepped forward, feeling a pull of empathy that eclipsed the urgency. No, she needs to be here, Sarah insisted, desperation coloring her words. He needs to hear her voice. Christine, Mark called, drawing her closer, his tone softer now. You need to talk to him. He's fighting to come back. Christine got closer, breath hitching in her throat. Tears sparkled in her eyes as she reached for his face, brushing a piece of hair away from his forehead. I'm here. I'm right here, don't you give up. The connection shimmered in the room. It was a moment both raw and beautiful, as if time itself had paused to allow this bond to flourish amidst despair. Sarah felt her chest tighten, the weight of the situation pressing tighter. She couldn't help but glance back at the young man's father, still standing there, a quiet mentor through pain. How was he holding together? The young man's gaze shifted towards Christine, his eyes flickering with recognition. Chris, he murmured, as if reaching for a distant memory. Just keep looking at me. You're going to be okay. We're going to get you through this, Christine urged, her voice steady with fierce determination. With every syllable, the room exhaled a collective breath. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope spark within her. They were fighting back against the darkness that loomed. Ready? The doctor asked, positioning herself for the intubation. Sarah nodded, the tension thickening again. On 3, she called. As they prepared, the young man's eyes met Christine's, a flicker of understanding passing between them. It felt significant. But just as they began, the alarms blared a final ominous warning. Sarah's heart sank anew. It wasn't over. Hold on, she shouted, urgency rippling through the room. Outside, the incessant hum of the emergency lights droned on, announcing the existence of others still waiting for care, still holding their breaths. Would this delicate encounter be enough to guide him back? Would Christine's love bridge the distance between life and the darkness? As they prepped for what was to come, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this night was about more than just medicine. It was about connections, about love, about the moments that shape one's destiny. Let us do this, the doctor commanded. And as they dove into the fight, Sarah wondered what miracles could emerge in the battle for a life. What strength could love hold in the darkest moments? The storm outside had finally begun to wane, a slow retreat of heavy clouds as dawn approached. But within the hospital, the night was still an uproar of urgency. Sarah moved through the chaos like a whisper of wind, each step fueled by resolve. A chorus of hope battled for the future of the young man and countless others who fought within these walls. Clear. The command rang through the air like a bolt of lightning as the team worked tirelessly on the young man. Sarah felt each heartbeat like a drum echoing through her own chest, a reminder of the life hanging in the balance before them. She focused on the rhythmic dance of possibility. Christine's voice had ignited something precious in that boy, and every word felt like an affirmation that love could conquer even the darkest nights. The doctor, poised and confident, led the charge, hands moving with precision. Mark stayed at Sarah's side, a steadfast companion in this tempest, their lives inextricably intertwined as they communicated without words, shooting glances that held fire and hope. Mark, for drip, Sarah called, narrowing her focus despite the stir of panic threatening to creep in. He was there beside her, steadfast and strong, handling everything with determination. I've got it. His reply calmed her pulse, grounding her amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty. With every interaction they shared, she felt the undeniable pull of their connection deepen, each moment reinforcing that together, they were more than just colleagues. They were a team bound by a common purpose. As time ticked away, something began to shift in the room. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation and determination. When Christine started to cry out the young man's name in despair, something within Sarah tightened with empathy. It wasn't merely about resuscitating a patient. They were straining to draw life back from the precipice of despair, to tug hope from the hands of darkness. "Peter, don't you dare leave us. You've got to fight," Christine pleaded, desperation dancing in her voice as she focused on her beloved with a fierceness only love could ignite. Sarah glanced at the monitors, her eyes darting to the flickering line that held all their breaths. Everything seemed to swell like the tide, but it was together that they could make a difference. And a moment of stillness, the young man's eyes fluttered open, catching Christine's gaze. "Chris," he gasped, and the room erupted. Relief swelled through everyone present, a raw, palpable joy that swept away pieces of fatigue and despair. "I'm right here," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks, mingling with joy and fear. "You're going to be okay." Her smile illuminated the harsh fluorescent lights around them. Just then, alarms cried out, a reminder that their victory was only one piece of the many puzzles in play. But in that moment, victory didn't seem so far off. Sarah saw the shared smile between Mark and her, a fleeting glance that said, "We did it," ceding space for something beautiful. Love had stitched together a fragment of hope within that room, igniting a spark amid the chaos. As the hours stretched into the dawn, the team continued to receive patients, each one a new battle, each one demanding their attention. But there was a strength in knowing that they were not alone. Sarah felt fortified by this connection with Mark. They had faced the storms together, and as the rain turned to light, hope shone bright and beautiful. A fateful moment unfolded, a lull in the chaos where they could breathe again. "You know," Mark said, his tone gentle amid the aftermath of the storm, "I've never felt more alive than in those moments when we were fighting together. I think we make a pretty good team." Sarah smiled, a wave of warmth pouring into her heart. It felt good to finally say what she had been feeling. "We really do." The connection between them blossomed, both in courage and affection. Each embraced the other's vulnerability, the scars born from their shared trials, and they knew, just like the morning sun breaking through storm clouds, that perhaps they were more than just two wounded souls. They were each other's anchorage. As the day began to cast its soft light over the world outside, Sarah realized it was time to confront the judgment, the noise of the small town that had crept in every now and then like unwelcome shadows. But all those moments paled in comparison to the bond forged through nights like this. "Mark," she said, as they prepared for the next round of patients, resolute, "let us face everything together, out there and in here. These storms don't define us. Our love and commitment do." He nodded, heart swelling as he clasped her hand tightly. Together. Always. The world outside may be cloudy, but they were ready to embrace whatever came next with heart and resolve, stronger together, forever intertwined. Now hear me when I say this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to catch all the exclusive stories we have coming up. Leave a like now, as it seriously helps us grow and reach new viewers. And I want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending below. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Your support means everything in keeping this community alive.